Hey, everybody, welcome back to Engaging the Phenomenon. And today I am joined by our good friend Rob Freeman, UFO World Explorer, and McNabb. So, welcome, guys.
Thank you,
And
James. Great to see you again. So,
yeah, and it's been a little while since the last time we had you on. I can't quite recall when it was, but since then, and even before that, Rob Freeman and Mark have been traveling the world documenting contact via contact modalities. And a big proponent that we're going to be discussing on this program is definitely going to be work that Rob has been involved with for a number of years, which is Mindsight or seeing without eyes. It's kind of coming full circle now and becoming more public and more acknowledged. But Rob here has been doing the work for years. Um, I I actually first came across it through some like underground new age documentary from like the 80s or something. Uh, there was this program called Through the Eyes of a Child, and it was like a Drunvalo Melchizedek, very new age thing, but he had a demo of this kind of seeing without eyes, which I had not seen much follow up on that until actually a lot of the work that you were doing, Rob. So, here let's start with this idea of, well, actually, what have you been up to, Rob? Why don't you tell us and Mark?
yeah, well, the UFO stuff, we continue to do expeditions throughout South America and document cool high strangeness stuff. It's one anomaly after another. And, like every other person into UFOs, you start out by looking for lights in the sky, and you soon discover it's more about all the ground effects and the cool high strangeness around you that happen. And time warps and anomalies and apports and just, some people will call it paranormal. We just call it cool high strangeness. It just seems to be interconnected with all of that. But, we've been around South America, and the latest thing we're going to do is we're going to actually combine all of that with Mindsight. Mindsight, for people that don't know, is seeing without your eyes. And it's something that I got into 8 years ago now. It was actually just a couple of years after we got involved with the UFO stuff in our travels. We've been going 10 years, and I guess it's over 21 countries now. But we did run into a lady in our UFO expeditions who was teaching her grandchildren, Leonia Pelt, to see blindfold. And she showed me a video of her grandkids running around the backyard playing hide and go seek as if they can see everybody and see everything. So I asked her if that was real. She said it was. I said, well, if it's real, I want to do it. So we started learning. And really, there was one teacher in Canada and up in Ottawa who was teaching it to children. And at that time, a lot of people didn't believe that adults can do it. But the truth is, anybody can do it. And we started doing it, and there was really not too many people to train us. So we really started learning by trial and error, discovered many, many things. And, recently last year, started doing seminars and having people getting together. It works much better getting the people together to do it versus practicing online. There's something magical about having people physically together opening this ability. It likely goes down to the quantum level. I don't know. And so, to make a long story short, we've got a very special event coming. It's Mount Shasta, the great place, number one place in the US pretty much for UFOs, August 9th to 17th. It's a 3-in-1 event. So we're going to teach telekinesis in the morning. Okay, I've already done this. I mean, I won't be teaching it. We've got a very well-known hypnotherapist, Alex Steffen, who will be teaching that. And we have found that by learning telekinesis, that really speeds the opening of your mind sight as well. So he will be teaching telekinesis in the morning. We have lunch, and in the afternoon, we will be doing the Mindsight under my direction. And I have two demonstrators there, Dahlia, the lady that was at Contact in the desert showing everybody. She will be there. And Nikki Williams will be there helping me. And so we'll be learning Mindsight. I shouldn't say learning, it's really just opening your mindsight, James, because
Remembering.
remember, everybody already has it. Okay, so you're just opening it. There's two levels. There's the intuitive level where things with your eyes closed or with a mask can appear very hazy or nebulous. Like you can feel a color, you can feel a shape, you might get an image of it momentarily, you might see a very foggy image. That's the intuitive level. And we start out with that, then we go to the advanced level, which is actually seeing in real time. It will start out with a tiny pinhole, what looks like you're seeing through your mask. And many people will want to change their mask because they think their mask is broken and got a defect in it. But every mask will have that same defect. It's your eyes. You're seeing through the mask. Okay, it's plastic. Here it is right here. So you can see it's hard plastic and there's no holes in the mask. And but it starts out in the advanced level like a pinhole, and you'll start seeing colors through it. So if I was to hold up a color, you would see this little dot and it has, a pink color. Or if I hold that up, you'd say, well, it looks like a yellow color. And then you'll get another dot, same thing. That dot will get bigger. And all of a sudden, as you turn your head, because it doesn't move with your eyes, it moves with your head because you're seeing from internally. But you will see that that pinhole will become the size of like a pencil eraser, and you'll start to see detail. So as you look around, you might be able to read, as you scan somebody's t-shirt, you might be able to read the words on the t-shirt. If you look up, you might see their eyes, their nose, their mouth, their face as you kind of scan around. And you get these seeing windows opening up over time. And uh, it becomes like Swiss cheese. So you might have a window here, one here, even on the sides, even behind, above. It's crazy. And you can decide which window you want to look through. You know, the same as in your house. You can go to a window and look out. Okay, I want to look out the back window. Go for it. So, and then over time, those windows will start to join together and you'll have a vision field and you can see in real time. So we're teaching that in the afternoon. And then early evening, we have Mark will be there, of course. He will be showing all our travels for the last 10 years, but mainly the last three, documenting all that stuff. There'll be Q&A. We'll also have Dave Palachuk there from MUFON Canada. He is past national director and also chief investigator, and he's going to be talking about warp bubbles that have been seen in videos of ET craft and photos. And he's written a book. He's going to bring the book. We'll hand that out to everybody. And I guess we've been written up in his book because we're part of his research. When we were recently in Argentina, Mark, what was the name of that place?
It was Capilla del Monte.
Ah, okay. For the last night, in the last hour, as happens many times,
Yeah.
we saw lights coming on and going off in the distance. And this went on for about 45 minutes, Mark.
Yeah.
And, I instruct people with the laser pens, the laser beams, do not touch an object, right?
Ever. Yeah.
We've all been on enough
Yeah.
expedition. Draw circles around
Yeah.
it. Well, I thought that's what they were doing. And I can speak Spanish, but maybe something was lost in the translation because we got all the videos back to Dave Palachuk and he analyzed them and he says, Rob, he says, your participants struck the object with the laser. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to give me a dressing down here. Very bad move. And he says, but the good news is, he says, when you zoom in on those objects that you captured, you can see the laser beam come up to the object and bends around it and continues out the other side.
Yeah.
I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, that's the warp bubble. He said these ET craft are manipulating time, space, and gravity and have warped that light as it goes around. He said, many of the objects that are filmed that, go against buildings, for example, through a downtown area, you'll see a warp bubble around the object. And he said, inadvertently, your participants struck the object with the laser beam, even though they weren't supposed to touch it. But he was glad they did because it is just one more demonstration of this warp bubble theory. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to have all these presentations in the early evening, and then go off to dinner, and then at around 8:30 at night we'll be doing various sky watches, at the lodge, up in Mount Shasta. There's various other places where we're going to be going. Now, here's the neat thing, James, is that with Mindsight, you can see outside the visible range. Okay, there's videos on YouTube of me in a black room, and we use my thermal camera from, my ET stuff. And we've got, the bottom of the door is sealed. We've got blackout on the windows. There's no light in the room. And you'll see me with the thermal camera, you'll see me getting all the colors correct and the symbols and the pictures correct. So I'm seeing in the dark. There's other videos where they're filming with infrared light, like an infrared camera. To my natural eyes, it looks pitch black, but you'll see in the infrared camera, and it has an infrared illuminator, you'll see me getting all the things correct. So the idea is we want to use this ability to go out and spot things, specifically ET craft, both visible and invisible. Many people say that there's invisible craft moving across the sky. Maybe it's just outside of the light spectrum. I know I've picked up stuff myself with the thermal cameras, the ultraviolet, and the full spectrum and the infrared that were not seen by our eyes. So the idea is we're going to use our Mindsight, newly acquired Mindsight. I'm going to have all these participants looking to spot stuff specifically outside of the visible range. Everybody's going to see what's there visibly, and that's great. We'll document that with my cameras. But the real juicy stuff is going to be what they can spot that's not in the visible spectrum. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be 9th to 17th, and it's pretty exciting, one of a kind event.
So have you gotten any knocks at your door? People in suits come and say, "Hey, Rob, what are you doing?"
Not yet. Well, we look forward to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's funny, James, because other people are afraid of all that and they get spooked out. And Marcus and I, like, we've been waiting for 10 years. And
yeah,
it's like, and maybe they know that, but it's like, okay, we can't film that if it happens, but at least we would talk about it on a green screen.
yeah,
And if the Men in Black or government people want to kind of, interview us or talk to us clandestine, it's okay. We don't
yeah.
mind. But
I,
it
I,
hasn't happened
yeah,
yet.
I'm saying that somewhat in jest because I mean, a lot of what you're talking about is again, it's only being acknowledged in the public more so now with the Skywatcher, although
Mhm.
this stuff has been going on for decades, but usually it's been like an open secret kind of thing. And when it comes to UFOs, like this is where it's at. I mean, this
Yeah.
is, where again, as you mentioned before, people usually start their journey um, into greater realities, you can say, by seeing a UFO, or that's like the portal to, or Dr. John Mack's passport to the cosmos, where
Yeah.
that's really the beginning. And then at some point it reflects back inward into the human potential, and like what is this consciousness thing, and how is it involved in these UFOs and everything else. So regarding the mind sight, or the seeing without eyes, how long does it generally take for an individual? I know it's probably nuanced, but to be able to experience it, like even through the training, and then how long does it take? Again, generally speaking, on the path to development, where you saw you were describing those different kind of uh, phases of where it's like a pinpoint and then like an eraser, and then it becomes larger and larger. How long does that kind of process take?
Yeah, online it can take months or even years.
Yeah.
Now, and this is why we started doing the in-person live seminars, because when you get a group of people together, like 20 people together, you get all of that happening usually within the week. Like the very first day, people are seeing at the intuitive level, sensing and getting very hazy images. That's literally the first day. And then we've had some people open their advanced level Mindsight the second day. Typically, it's the third day. And then, not everybody. And then the fourth day more, fifth day more. And by the sixth day, or depending if it's a 7 day seminar, by the last day, almost everybody will be seeing at the advanced level Mindsight level. I mean, you don't always get 100%. You usually get pretty close to it. What we find is if somebody is just too intellectual, you know, in our society, we value the intellectual side, your work. It will get you places if you're smart. Doesn't work in Mindsight. You want to get rid of that. That's all left brain. The left brain is intellectual, rational, logical, ego-based thinking. All of that is left brain. In our right brain, we have all these abilities. Mindsight, it's the creative, intuitive, sensing side. So it's running 24 hours a day, and it's the left brain that filters that out, and it's the cop. The left brain is the ego, and it just holds the hand up and won't let most of that come through. It wants to be the boss. And the left brain cannot do this ability. It's all in the right brain. So we have to find ways to trick the left brain to get out of the way, to distract it, to keep it busy. It's kind of like all the kids are out in the playground and the bell rings and the kids want to go back through the door to get into the classroom and the bully is standing there. And it's like they can't get past the bully. And how are they going to do that? They've got to get in and study and be with the teacher. So they'll maybe get one of the kids to distract the bully. Oh, look over here, or do something that annoys the bully and keep him engaged. Then all the other children can slip through and run through the door. And that's exactly how this works. It's not rocket science at all. It's very simple, actually. And, in our trial and errors that we did for, several years, we found a lot of different ways of how to engage the left brain, keep it busy. And those moments, when you keep it busy, when you keep it occupied, when you distract it, it's at those moments the intuitive level will wander through. Okay. And then the more it wanders through, the more it will happen. And you know, then you start automatically going to the next level. I mean, because it's a natural thing, if you provide the conditions, James, it will automatically evolve. It's like, children in school learning, there's a progression in school. And even when a child's born, there's a progression of how things develop with a baby. How a baby starts to see, how a baby starts to understand, how a baby can start to speak. It's a natural progression that will happen just by, being around their parents. And just by being with the group and, myself, the other trainers, we've been through it. We know all the little key signals. We know all the things to do. There's a natural progression that if a person can let go, that they will automatically follow. Their mindset will automatically start wandering out. And the cool thing is, too, is that many other psi abilities will start wandering out as well. And at first, when we first were learning this, we tried to block those out. We're like, no, 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 I don't want to see the future. I don't want to see the past. I don't want to see in the other room. I want to see in front of me. We found that if you try to block any of the other abilities out, then you'll block out the Mindsight also. So the idea is if any of the other abilities wander out naturally, play with them. Don't stand in the way, encourage them, and that will also help the Mindsight come out. And you can decide later if you want to get more involved with some of these other things. Like, and when we were learning, we would video our sessions, our practice sessions, and, sometimes we wouldn't get the cards right. Like every time we would be giving a different card to what was held up. But when we played the video back, we realized there was a pattern. We were seeing the card two cards ahead each time. So we were going to the near future. It's like, okay, that's what was happening. So, and other times we would see as if we were seeing in one of the other rooms. So, okay, I went into the other room and held cards up for my partner, closed the door, and she got everything correct. And then we didn't know how far it would go. So I went out in the car while she was in her house. I was in the driveway. She had her back to me sitting in the living room there to the window, and I was in the driveway and I was holding up things. She was getting them all. So that was literally remote viewing. And that's what Mindsight is on the intuitive level. It's remote viewing up close or local remote viewing. So then when she was getting all the things correct, and we had walkie-talkies, I thought, okay, I'm just going to try something here. So I quietly started the car up, pulled out of the driveway without making too much sound, and drove down to the end of her road, 1,000 feet away. I'm still holding up stuff. She's still getting them all. So then, we started, she lives an hour away from me. So we would do online sessions and then I would hold stuff up out of the screen and she would get them all correct. So it didn't matter whether they were in the screen or out of the screen. It's remote viewing. And that's at the intuitive level. And then once again, you use that as a footstep or a stepping stone to go to the advanced Mindsight where you actually see in real time and you're seeing through what starts like a pinhole, then an eraser, pencil eraser size hole, then bigger holes. They'll elongate, they'll join together, and you can see in real time. And Dahlia, who, was at Contact in the Desert, she can put patches on her eyes. She can put her mask on. She can put a towel over that. It doesn't matter how much stuff you put on, she can see through it in the real time at the advanced level. So it's quite an ability. We all have it. Mark has it. Mark's tried this a few times and he got it. You have it, James. Everybody has it. We're born with it. It's just a matter of understanding how you can let it come out and play. It's a natural thing. It's a God-given thing. We're born with it.
Well, I want to come back to the Mindsight, but I was curious about the telekinesis aspect of that event you have coming up. On what scale is the telekinesis and who's giving the training and
Yeah.
yeah.
So Alex Steffen, he's a Canadian who lives currently in Australia, and he's done a number of different modalities in his hypnotherapy practice. And he also helps out with the Mindsight, but he's teaching the telekinesis. And it starts out with, just spinning foil, really. And then, under glass and, that whole feedback loop of seeing yourself, making it move. And it really comes down to sort of a feedback around belief. Many people want to get involved with these things, but pardon me, their belief system doesn't allow them to, or there's like a wall, a barrier that's locked. And once you start seeing that you can actually move the foil, sitting on a needle, then that starts to break down some of the walls that we have internally that we've built up over the years. People telling us you can't do this, people, friends, family, and so on, where it's built up a wall. So once you can start breaking down these walls, that's why we'll start in the Mindsight in the afternoon. And then we have, the ladies demonstrate it. And seeing is believing also, because we have the mask, but then we also put this card on the front so that people can see that there's no way that, you can peek around the edge of the mask so they can see for themselves that it's real. Now, that helps to break down more walls, but until a person's doing it themselves, it's still difficult to believe. We've been told all our life that this is just not a thing. But in fact, James, very likely yourself, including Mark here, sometime between the age of 2 and 3, you would have gone out to your mom or dad in the kitchen with your hands over your eyes as a little boy, and you would have said, Mommy, I can see you. Now, what happens next changes your whole life.
Yeah.
In those next moments, your mom would have likely said, Oh, honey, James or Jamie, that's not real. That's just make believe. And of course, as a little boy, you believe mommy. Now, it's not that she's a bad person. That's her beliefs and the society that we've all come through. So most kids do actually operate this spontaneously as a child, but are very quickly shut down by family, friends, people around us who remind us very quickly that that's just make believe, that it's not real. Now, all we're doing is going back to that spot and saying, but it is real. You were right. You could do it. And let's continue on with that now. And so, one at a time, we're just, knocking those bricks out of the wall and letting the walls come down. And when the people start to see the colors at an intuitive level, and they're actually getting it correct, and they start seeing the symbols, like very quickly we start into symbols. And these are very plain and very obvious, and they show up in the Mindsight at the intuitive level. And then we'll go to letters and numbers and words and so on. But it's a feedback process. And once you start getting successes, then you start to say, wow, this really is real. I guess I did make the right decision and come to this seminar to learn because it's happening. And the left brain will jump in there now and again and try to say that you're cheating. It'll try to come up with reasons because the left brain gets very jealous. It's like we have two different sides to us, right? The left brain gets jealous and it says, well, I can't do this. I'm going to kill this ability of the right brain. And it will try to come up with reasons why somehow you might be cheating, but we take steps to make sure that the way we do it, it's very obvious that the person is not cheating. And then after a while, the left brain just gives up. It'll try to come up with every reason under the sun, you know, and then finally it runs out of reasons and it accepts it. And it's at that point that, your seeing the room in real time mindset will start to come open because the left brain just says, well, I'm out of here. And the right brain can get all these things and bring them and come right through with it. And it's pretty cool. And some people will feel a certain sense of deja vu. I know I did. Um, I learned how to do this and then I spent a lot of time teaching, so it kind of disappeared again. I spend so much time teaching people online and involved with Mark on the expeditions. So I kind of forgot about doing it myself in the Orlando seminar back in January. Some of the guys said, well, Rob, why don't you try it? And I said, well, I can do it. I've done it in the past. Just look at all the videos on YouTube. And they say, no, no, no. Why don't you try to reopen it? And I thought, well, maybe. And then one night, we had 3 houses rented, and the one house that we were staying in was where we did the classes. There were 8-bedroom homes. And I heard all the activity downstairs in the evening after the classes were over. And I said to myself, it feels like tonight my window's going to reopen. So I go down there and they start helping me out and applying the different things that we do. And I said to myself, well, I don't know what they're doing, but I think my mindsight's going to come open. And it did. I had a little window, a little, eraser size window. And it's interesting because the cards they were showing me, it wasn't these cards, but The cards were, had a point on them, but I wasn't touching the point. I was handling the cards, and in my mind sight, it gave in real time, it gave me the card with 90-degree corners on them, pointed, and um it gave me what was on the card, but for example, this card, it showed a larger margin around it. Now, no matter where I moved the card, it moved with my mind sight, like around. But when I lifted my mask up, I felt the card and I thought, wait a minute, there's a point on that. My mind sight showed me rounded cards. And also I saw that the line was a lot narrower than what I was seeing. Now, I guess there's a term for that. It's called projection or something. And the mind was creating this in the mind based on the energy it was receiving. Because remember, this is not through your eyes, it's directly to your brain. Is it third eye? Maybe this is third eye. Who knows? And it's mono, it's not stereo vision either, James. It's monocular. So people, when they first learn this, they can have a difficult time with judging distance, but it's very easy to figure out distance because all you got to do is just, when you're looking, just move your head a bit. And objects that are far away don't move very far when you move your head. Objects that are up close, if you move your head, they move in your visual field a lot more. So your brain will tell you, oh, that's a foot away, that's 2 feet away, that's 5 feet away. Plus, you know the relative size of things like, a cup, how big a cup should be. So based on how big you're seeing it, your brain will tell you probably how far that is away from you. Because with two eyes, we have stereo vision and our brain can calculate distances very accurately. But when you have just your mind sight eye, your advanced, it's one, it's monocular vision. So you've got to move your head a bit like this to determine distance, or just the relative size of objects in your visual field will tell you how far something is away.
And do you guys, I guess maybe on the training, do you have something to help the idea of like breaking down and limiting belief systems?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
That's Alex Steffen's work.
okay.
Okay, he's a hypnotherapist, and so he will take everybody through various levels of relaxation. And it's funny because in the Orlando seminar, since he was doing that part of it, I just took a chair and I went along with it. And all I remember is, we started into that. And then the next thing I remember is 7, 8, 9, 10, wake up. It was kind
Yeah,
of like, it was a great little, what I thought was a sleep. You might call that hypnosis, right?
yeah.
But he's very good at helping to break down limiting beliefs, because that's exactly what is the barrier of this thing. Is, although, somebody may say, yeah, I want to do this, how do they deal with those subconscious limiting beliefs that we all have? So, I do my part and he does his part. And the ladies that do the demonstrations and the training, they do their part. And we help people to, one at a time, dismantle some of those limiting beliefs that might be getting in the way. And we watch everybody. For example, we'll put people in pairs. So they practice back and forth. One person will show, one person wears a blindfold, the other will show, and they'll go 5 or 10 minutes and then they switch. It's important to rest back and forth each time. And as the week goes on, you'll find there's some people that will get it right away. So we take note of those people, and every day we change partners. So you don't have the same partner. We want to switch around the energy and so on. And the people who are not quite getting it, will hook them up with the people who are already getting it. So, you might have Sally here who's now seeing in real time. You might have John here who's seeing at the intuitive level. Sally knows what it feels like to get to that level. So with Sally working with John, she can really help John move forward now, because everything John's talking about, Sally has already gone through. So it's a great way to then help everybody reach that goal of seeing the room in real time. But, we don't guarantee that everybody will reach that level. I can almost guarantee 100% that everybody will reach the intuitive level. I mean, every single person I have ever helped out, even doing 1 hour trial sessions on the internet, has reached the intuitive level. That's easy. Okay, so I won't say that I can guarantee 100%, but I can say I'll guarantee 99.9999% on that level. And then on the seeing the room in real time mindset level, it's almost 100% all the time. So we don't say every single person will reach that in the seminar, but everybody has the potential to reach that. The folks that don't reach that, and there's usually only maybe one or two at most, sometimes it's the whole group reaches it. But what I have noticed, it's typically a guy, and it's typically an engineering type guy who is very much into their left brain, like somebody who's very smart. And people will write me and say, I've got a PhD and I've got all these university degrees and all this. And so this should be very easy for me to learn. I'm a good learner. And I'm like, oh my God, does this guy really want to come? He's going to be a very difficult participant
Yeah.
because he's so much into his left brain and wants to understand every little aspect from an intellectual point of view. But it's not helpful, James. Like it's better to just, save your questions to the end of the day. Um, when people start asking too many questions, what that is, it's the left brain firing up and making an excuse and blocking the right brain. Okay. In other words, the left brain knows the right brain can do it, but it's going to ask all these questions. And in all that process of asking these questions, it's putting up a barrier because it's now engaging with the teacher. We don't want it engaging with the teacher. We want the right brain engaging with the teacher. So I have to discreetly let folks know to save your questions. A few are okay, but you'll get some people that incessantly, it's the engineering types, will incessantly continually ask questions because they want to know. It's that inquisitive side, which is left brain, and but it's not helpful in mindsight.
Since I mean, and it's been a number of years now, but since you were developing the mindsight and practicing and then teaching, did you notice in any way, uh, or did that have any effect or augmentation on your contact work when you're going out and
Yeah,
do into the field?
yeah. Yeah, I think that this is the other reason why we want to combine the two, because, many people in this field really feel that you have to connect at the intuitive level, like let go of all the brainy stuff and just get relaxed, do meditations, and connect at this level in order to make contact. So I would say it's very helpful because it's, to open your mindset, you have to get into the intuitive level. You have to get into those very deep parts of you that can connect with other beings, other people, telepathy, you know, star people. It is helpful. And this is the reason why we're combining the two things in this event. And we expect it to be epic. You're going to get people who are already intuitive coming. You're going to get people who want to connect with the ETs and the crafts and so on. And then when we take them through all this training, they're going to get into the right brain even more. So we do expect it will be super helpful in this event. And, people in general for doing contact work, just being able to get relaxed and out of that left brain is very helpful. We have found it. Typically we'll do little meditations when we're at an event or whether it's our own expeditions, we'll just get ourselves relaxed and get down into those basic levels, those feeling levels. I can't tell you how many times, James, we have, initially thought, okay, let's do our Skywatch here tonight. Like, Playa Yaya is an example in where Mark is in Peru right now. Mark's in the Lima area, Miraflores. And um, we were going to the Playa Yaya beach, and we arrived at the beach, late morning, and we looked at each other, the three of us, and we looked at each other, and we just didn't have a great feeling. We just kind of looked at each other and says, no, this doesn't feel right. This is not where it's going to happen. Let's go somewhere else. It was a beautiful beach. We were right on the ocean. What is it we were feeling? I can't tell you. I know at an intuitive level, we were not connecting, we weren't sensing it. So we drove down the beach on the road, on the beach road. And as we got at the other end, 2 or 3 miles away, there was like what would you call it? A bit of a cliff that was sticking out into the water. There was actually a power plant on the other side of the highway from the beach. That didn't seem to mean anything to us at the time, but I'm sure it did mean a lot in terms of why everything showed up there. But when we arrived to that spot, we felt it. We said, yes, this is where we're going to make contact right here. And we felt it. We did a meditation. We felt good. And that's where we parked ourselves for the evening. And then, we've told some of these stories, I think, on your previous podcasts. It was nonstop. We documented over 7 very distinct events that happened through that evening right there at that spot. So, can the Mindsight training help you with your ET work? 100%. And we're going to put it to the test, and we're going to harness it at the Mount Shasta event,
You know,
August 9th
I
to 17th.
I was just going to say, just to add to what Rob just said, James, is we've always believed that there's like this trifecta of what can happen that really create the best contact experience. It's the people, it's the location, and so we have that. We have a group of people that are extremely excited. Like, I'm not sure if Rob mentioned this, but I know he's told me that 80% of the people that get involved with Mindsight are very excited about UFOs and very excited about, and so it became like that perfect opportunity of saying, okay, we've got a group of people that are very heightened, very excited, very emotional, including inclusive of that is the fact that they're involved with Mindsight, and inclusive of that is we're going to one of the greatest contact spots in the world. I mean, all the masters, all the greats go there. Ricardo Gonzalez, Sixto Paz Wells, Luis Fernando Mostajo. We're talking Bolivia, Peru, like all the greats go there. Why do they go there? Well, they go there because that's where contact is made. We had an experience, and I'll just mention it briefly, is we spent 18 days with Ricardo Gonzalez in Peru. And we went everywhere and we got various messages that were given to us. And I know we probably talk about this, so I'll just say it briefly. And a lot of these messages were coming from two beings that Ricardo has had 25, 30 years of connection with, Anturel and Ivica. And Anturel is like 9 feet in height, according to Ricardo and his experiences. And Ivica is like 4 feet. She's quite a bit little. And we received different messages. And then when we came back from Peru, the very first expedition that we had in July of that same year was going to Mount Shasta. And we didn't connect everything because Antarel had given messages to Ricardo that we were on the right path, that he liked our work, that he liked what we were doing, that he felt that we were selfless and really really excited to do this. So we got to Mount Shasta, and then Rob, one of the evenings, had all of his cameras set up. Okay, we had
Yeah.
20, 25, 30 people, but Rob keeps his cameras respectfully away from the group, just to set everything up. And while he was in, and of course, then there's that moment. It's like, okay, we're going to meditate. Everyone be quiet. We're going to have this moment. And Rob was over by the cameras, and he distinctively heard something. And he first thought was, who's talking, right? Who's talking while we're trying to meditate here?
Yeah.
But he made a note of it. He did. He was like, oh, okay, this is the time that it came up. Okay, I'm gonna make a note of this. And the next, I don't know, it might have been that night or the
It
next
was that evening. It was that
that
evening.
evening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Rob's like, okay, I'm gonna go to all my cameras and I'm going to go to this spot. And what does he hear? Very clearly for him, okay, very, very clearly for him, he hears a man's voice say, Ivica. And he's like, and it's not even a very normal voice. It's like I've heard the voice. I've heard it. I have it on my computer somewhere. It's very monotone, very, very plain, very monotone style. So what he does is verification. I'm going to have somebody else in the group. It was Dan Berg, who from the group is going to listen to it. I'm not going to tell him anything. I'm not going to give him any kind of an opportunity to know what I'm thinking it is. I want to know what he thinks it is. So puts on the headphones. Dan, what do you hear? And Dan goes, Ivica. He's saying Ivica. And so again, for us to be at Mount Shasta, which is really like one of the most important sites that Antarel and Ivica visit. It's in many books, including Grant Cameron's books, about Mount Shasta and his own personal experiences, Paula Harris's experiences, all at Mount Shasta, all with Antarel and Ivica. So for us, and they all go there. This is why everybody goes there. So we're excited to go because we're having that trifecta of Mindsight, people that are really excited about contact at one of the best spots in the world.
Yeah. So James, really how it came about is, once again, I got into Mindsight because I thought it might help me see or, make contact with crafts. So I went on that path, but at the same time, with Mark, traveling around the world, doing all the ET stuff. But when we started doing the seminars like last year, um, it seemed that when we went out for dinner in the evenings, the UFO subject always came up. And everybody around the table wanted to know. And then, of course, once everybody starts talking, literally every single person has either an experience to talk about or they know somebody that has an experience. So, it seemed, and I did a bit of a survey over the months following of people that came to the seminars, and literally it was 80%. That's where I got that number from that Mark alluded to earlier. And so we thought, well, why don't we combine the two? It's time. It's time to combine. We're teaching the people mindset, or not teaching them. We're showing them how to let it come wandering out. It's really a facilitation. It's not a teaching at all. You know, it just wanders out by itself when you get the conditions correct. But the idea is use the telekinesis to help develop the mindset, and then together use the telekinesis and the mindset. And there's a third thing here. Dave Palachuk has built two of the so-called dog whistles. Okay. You've heard that, Jake Barber and his Skywatcher group use the dog whistle to call in craft, and they're claiming 100% success with that. Okay. They've been documenting, there's videos, you see videos of them chasing these things with a helicopter, um, all kinds of stuff, and they're claiming 100%. So Dave was able to get the plans of the dog whistle. It got leaked on the internet, like everything else. And he said, Rob, I'm going to bring a dog whistle. I said, that's great. Well, that's just one of the things we'll use to call them in. And I said, could you build a second one? He said, are you sure? They're kind of expensive with all the electronic parts. I said, I want one myself also. And he said, but why take two? I said, well, Dave, you know how electronic equipment can get shut down by, our ET friends, our star brothers and sisters. This is not news. Anybody that's in the UFO documentation side of things gets their cameras shuts down, gets the batteries drained, then the batteries come alive, their iPhone shuts off, their iPhone comes back on again. All of this crazy anomalous stuff can happen. So I said, Dave, what happens if we go to use the dog whistle and it gets shut down? We don't know whether it's the ETs doing that, our friends, or we don't know if maybe, there's a malfunction in it or something. There's a glitch in it. So if we bring two and two get shut down at the same time, we know who's doing it. If we bring two and maybe one fails, we've still got the other one to work with, then that's just a defect or a glitch in the system that we've built. So we're definitely bringing two. We're going to use them, and it's just another tool to help us connect. And we've got the two sides of it, James. We've got the whole people side of it, human beings trying to connect with beings from other realms, specifically benevolent beings, ET beings of a higher nature. And we've got people connecting, intuitive level from their heart, all of that. Plus, we're combining it with scientific stuff, the science. And people will typically go to one side or the other. They're very interested in the science side, or they're very interested in the people, the intuitive, the heart to heart side. So in this expedition, we're combining both. And, for folks that are leaning more one side or the other, we can have conversations around either side. And it's not a secret either that myself, we learned fairly quick into when we started traveling that sometimes it's good to just put the equipment away.
Yeah.
And typically, and we do that. And some of our best stuff we don't have recorded even because it's on those nights when we didn't bring the equipment out. But I'll do that. I'll show myself and others that, hey, I have no problem connecting strictly on a heart to heart intuitive level with, whoever these higher beings are. But I also like all the camera equipment. So other nights I'll bring it all out, the whole 9 yards. Like there's 9 cameras. There's everything from ultraviolet to infrared to full spectrum to thermal to time lapse, you name it. And, I mean, I've always worked with cameras since I was a kid. So that's an enjoyable thing for me to do. But it's also an enjoyable thing to just leave it back at the Airbnb, for example, and just go out and connect at the intuitive level.
Yeah, I think it's actually really important to do that, and especially in the case where you can, and if you see a difference in when there's no equipment in comparison to when there is equipment, what their differences may be in how UFO intelligence or ETs manifest again in comparison to when you have all equipment running and the differences in the interactions. Uh, but I was going to ask about the dog whistle because I saw you had mentioned that in the post in a I think it was a Facebook post as well. Uh, is has that UFO dog whistle been tested?
It will be the one that Jake Barber has tested and used for now, I guess, several months, and they claim success. So we have that, and we have the same design. Dave, with his engineering and electronic background, he's actually also improved on it. Okay, through his work with MUFON and so on, he's got access to other information about how other frequencies can also be beneficial. These are audio frequencies, by the way, not radio frequencies. And so, and each frequency range that he has in this device is fully adjustable. So we can start out using the very same exact thing that Jake Barber is using, but then Dave will bring into it some experimentation, which, I'm always the guy that loves to experiment. And he can use his knowledge to bear so that we can try some of the other combinations as well and see if that's even more beneficial.
And you said that the dog whistle uh, leaked or whatever. Are you going to disclose like your entire like the process of the dog whistle during the event and
Yeah, yeah. Like Dave is actually going to give each participant the plans, I believe. He's going to give each participant on a USB stick, PDF or whatever of, if they want to build their own, like it's not a secret. It's out there in the public domain. It's just that you got to know how you can find it. And, Dave being an engineer, he has found it and he has built it. We're going to use it. And if the participants, they got to pay to come to this event. So this is just another value add. Not only are we going to use it, here are the plans. Go ahead and build one yourself if you're so inclined, or have a friend build it if you have a friend who's a electronic engineer and who's good at this stuff. So, we don't believe in keeping anything secret at all, James. We
Yeah.
believe in full disclosure of everything and anything around this, 100%.
Yeah. And the uh the Mount Shasta, um when's the last time you guys were at Mount Shasta?
Mark?
Oh, that I honestly, Rob, I think that was 2019. I think it's been 5 years since
Okay.
since
Okay,
that.
wow. Yeah.
Now, James, I got to tell you a side story. We probably told you this story before, but last time we went to Mount Shasta was when we had a crazy anomalous thing happen. Okay. You've already talked about the duplicate check. You know about that story, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was coming from Greece and I met Mark and our third person in Toronto. I was on a holiday in Greece. Okay. So I flew into Toronto and met up with Mark and our other person. And then we flew from there to San Francisco. Okay. And the flight up to, whatever airport it was, could have been Medford, was going to be late. And the deal is that if it's late by so long, and we were with United Airlines, and we may have told you the story before, but they will give you a lunch voucher. Okay. And so, but they said it's got to be delayed by, I think it was 4 hours. And I was watching the time and, I wanted to get a free lunch, of course. Big deal. It's like $10, but we wanted to get it. There were the three of us. So I'm listening on the speaker. I'm out in the sort of the vendor area, the shopping area of the mall, call it a mall. It looks like a mall, but it's San Francisco. And suddenly the lady came on the speaker and she said, all those on flight, whatever, come and see the gate agent for your lunch voucher. Because it's 4 hours delayed, everybody's entitled to get a lunch voucher. So I went hightailing it back to the counter. I didn't know that our third person had already been up to the counter and got her voucher. So I go up to the counter and I say, can I get the three vouchers for our group? And she, I gave my boarding pass and she took it and she printed out three vouchers. And I took them from her and I turned around and Mark and our other person was there and I gave them their vouchers. And the other person says, but I already have my voucher. And I thought, that's weird. I guess they don't have a very good accounting system if they'll just keep issuing lunch vouchers for anybody that asks, right? Like if I was running a business, I would want to make sure that you get one voucher and that's it.
Yeah.
And if you come up again, I'm sorry, you've already got your voucher. You know what I mean? But somehow she issued a second voucher for our third person. And then she says, well, I'm going to go spend them. Great, go for it. She had $20. So she went and spent them. And then we were back at the gate waiting to board. And we're just making conversation, chit chat conversation. I said, does everybody have their boarding pass? So, Mark checks his pocket. Yeah, I got mine. I got mine. And the third person goes in her purse. And what is in the purse but the voucher? Unspent. And it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, both vouchers were spent. And it's like, she says, well, I'm going to go spend this one too. And I says, no, 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 don't do that. That's fraud. And so we documented, Mark and her went back to the counter to see what was going on because all of a sudden a third voucher appeared in her purse. And she only got two vouchers. How is it that there's now a third voucher in her purse? And so the vouchers that got spent at the cashier put a yellow marker across the name and the amount. The voucher that now appeared in her purse. So help me God, may God strike me dead if I'm lying. I mean, this is a true story. Mark was there and he witnessed it. It did not have the yellow highlighted on it. but it was yet a third voucher. So how did that get in her purse? It just appeared in her purse. So this was on that trip out to Mount Shasta, where then we got on record on the video cameras, you know, probably it was the ET Antarell speaking the word Avika, which is his ET partner. So, you know, it's just part of all this, what we call cool, high strangeness stuff that happens. And it's all harmless, it's all good. We've never had anything negative happen on any of these expeditions. It's just all very benevolent and good. And um, we just love it. We just, it's cool stuff that happens.
Have you ever considered doing a documentary around the Mindsight work?
Well, Mark will be at the event. He's a film producer, as you know, and he will be documenting very discreetly. We don't want to do anything that could get in the way of the person's development. But Mark will be documenting for those who give the okay. If somebody doesn't want to be on film, they don't have to be on film, but Mark will be documenting this and eventually producing, some kind of work, a documentary or something around this, because we do expect this to be an epic event and it should be documented.
And in all your guys' travels, doing the ET contact work, UFO contact work, uh, have you guys come across any other, let's say, extraordinary abilities like similar to Mindsight?
Well, I tell you, when, teaching the mindset in these seminars, people do bump into most of all the other psi abilities, including precognition, clairvoyance, the future, um, telekinesis, of course. Well, we actually teach the telekinesis. What are some of the other abilities, James?
Well, like astral projection
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. People will have dreams sometimes where they're, leaving their body at the seminar and they'll recount special things that happen, all cool stuff. But once again, when you open the door, these are all natural things we have. We're born with them, they're God-given. So why shouldn't we use them? As long as you use this stuff in a positive, benevolent way. Any ability we have can be used in a very bad way or a very good way. You can give somebody a gun and they can go and kill people with it, or you can give them a gun and hire them to protect you. I mean, it's the same with psi abilities. You should only use these things like any other ability you have, in a moral and ethical way, in a good way. But it's true that when you do open the door to any one of them, of these natural God-given abilities, you are opening the door to others. But And we recommend that the people experiment and play with it because it does help your mindset develop. And you can decide later, hey, I'm not interested in this one or this one. I'm going to forget about that. What I truly am interested in, maybe pre-recognition or precognition. So, it is a sort of jumping off place where people can get involved with other things if they want. We're really just interested in the mindset, and specifically, I'm really helping out people who are blind, and because those folks really need this. I mean, I'm helping out both groups, and at the seminars, there's both people that come, sighted people come and blind people come. And it's great because the sighted people can help the blind people. And typically the sighted people's mindset comes open first, and the blind people get excited about that. But when the blind people start to see, that can be very emotional in a positive way for the sighted people. They're like, oh my goodness, this blind person is starting to see. And, in their mind, in their heart, they project that, wow, this blind person will be able to navigate in the future and see their environment. So that can be quite an emotional thing, but one group helps the other in these seminars.
And have you seen that happen often with somebody who's actually blind opening the mind sight?
Yeah, we have one gal, Kelly, right now, who is just in transition to her full seeing the room in real-time mindsight. She's just sort of in that in-between state. She was born blind, And at the age of 2, she had her eyes removed due to extreme glaucoma. So we have somebody with no eyes even who is seeing the room, who is, she'll tell me the shapes I'm holding up. She'll tell me the colors I'm holding up. I've got videos on YouTube. We do little field trips. We were at Costco and I stop on the aisle and I say, okay, tell me the colors on this box. She got all the colors correct. So we're working with her. I'll be seeing her again. She lives in Hamilton, about an hour and 15 minutes from me. Claudia, one of my other students who's now a trainer, the three of us are getting together physically at Claudia's place in Kitchener on Friday, and we're going to be doing all day training in person with her. We'll be training each other. It's important that it goes back and forth. So Kelly will be actually training us. And then
Yeah.
you can't just train her the whole day. Go back and forth so each person can have a rest. But the idea is we want Kelly to reach the actual seeing the room in real time level. I mean, in India, James, there's a bus driver who's blind. You know,
Yeah.
he's got his mindsight open. There's a taxi driver. Even Claudia, who's, longtime student who's doing training for us, she has retina pigmentosa where it's like tunnel vision. Her real window of her seeing is closing, and eventually she may go blind. We don't know. And that's why she's learning this. But she's even talked about when she has seeing the room in real time mindset, but when it actually expands to her full vision, the same as regular eyes, she's talking about going and getting her driver's license back, you know.
Yeah.
So how cool. Now she tells me she doesn't want to drive. I said, but how cool would it be? You have your driver's license back that you lost, 25 years ago because of her RP, So it's a very cool thing. And, people that are blind can do this. We've had blind people at every seminar. And once they take the seminar, we do online training a couple times a week, and I'm watching the blind people advance even more in that. But the goal is for all the blind people to attain their advanced seeing the room in real time mindset as well.
Yeah. And something I wanted to ask, since you guys are out in the field often, have you seen any shift in contact work amidst a lot of the recent developments in let's say the UFO space in the public uh theater, let me say, with all the whistleblowers and the disclosure things being put out there?
Well, I mean, I'm seeing that literally no matter where you go, anywhere, people seem to be interested in it now, and it you're getting a lot less of the skeptic type people, or I mean, almost everybody will say, well, I haven't had any experiences myself, but I'm open to it. You'll get a lot of people will say, well, we can't be the only ones in the universe. Come on. I mean, the universe is infinite, it seems, and there has to be other beings in other places of the universe. So I am seeing a shift of where more and more and more people are open, at least, to the idea. And that really is a great start, James, because, you know, if they're open, then they are likely to have experiences, or they're more likely to talk about it with friends who have had experiences already. So just the fact that more people now are open as a result maybe of seeing these hearings, of seeing different programs that are on TV now. And it really is coming out of the realm of tinfoil hats. It's almost out of that realm completely now, I would say, you know. And if anybody's still stuck in that realm, their friends will quickly get them out of it and say, don't be silly, this is real. I mean, there's so much acknowledgement by the government, different government departments now. How can somebody say it's not real?
And do you think, or let me phrase this a different way. What are your thoughts or expectations on something akin to like an official disclosure?
I'm not sure that's ever going to happen. Sadly, I think it's going to be like a cancer cure. Everybody thinks one day it's going to be on the front page. We've found the cure for cancer, and it's over. Cancer is over. You know, I mean, I've been through it twice myself, and my doctors tell me that's not what's going to happen. It's going to be a slow drip where there's more and more treatments that it's like diabetes. You don't have to die with diabetes. It's treatable, and they maintain it, they manage it. Cancers are becoming like that, where more and more are becoming treatable. My thought is disclosure is going to be very similar to that, where there's more and more acknowledgement, but nobody actually, the president doesn't come out one day and come on TV and announce that it's real. It seems to me it's already happening. There's more and more validation of it everywhere, but I can't see any sort of official body doing the big blast on TV.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll happen, James. That would be cool, but I'm not sure they want to do that because might be a little bit too much for people. But the slow drip where everywhere you look, it's kind of being disclosed quietly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, people are going to be to that mindset where everybody accepts it, but they never made an official disclosure. That's kind of
Yeah.
how I see it happening. I could be wrong, but that's what I see happening already. And I think we're just going to get more and more and more and more of that, like with these official hearings and more highly credible people acknowledging this and more government people acknowledging it. Everybody wants that somebody really important, like the president, would say so, but I don't know if we're going to get that.
Yeah.
What do you
And
think?
I wish I knew. Uh, it's just like that. You have different high level people coming forward saying this is real, and actually either myself or somebody I know worked firsthand on the program or, a program. Uh, I would love for, and, I don't know if people think this is necessarily a great idea, but I'd love for there to be like another Phoenix Lights type event where everybody nowadays has like a high, 4K camera on their phone and something cool like that. I just think it would be helpful in the process where there was some kind of cooperative event between non-human intelligence and humans that would facilitate a kind of global understanding. Just because I do think the the reality of it not being disclosed is holding us back.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool if that happened.
You
Everybody's
know,
got a phone. Phones are getting made, they all have 4K in them. Even phones, how they record at night is getting better and better. That would be pretty cool if that happened.
I think
Maybe
yeah.
our ET friends could arrange that.
I
I
think
mean,
it
yeah, it's wishful thinking in a sense, but again, I think that in whatever way it happens, and of course, there's the conversation nowadays that disclosure is being weaponized, and I understand that, and even Dr. Greer wrote a paper years ago called "When Disclosure Serves Secrecy." Uh, but I still think we do need to reach that point, and of course, we can't hold ourselves to it. We still have to continue doing the work that you guys are doing, with the field work and the contact work, but also this Mindsight stuff. But I do think that we sure could use a nudge over the edge these days because it's like almost as if people are living in these like parallel realities. Like you're there sitting in Peru, you're well in Canada. I'm over here in the US. When you walk around your supermarket, you're living in a reality where non-human intelligence exists and interacts with us, and you can see with your mind and without your eyes, and like there's just people oblivious to that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, And I think we can go a lot further and with less turbulence if more people are on the same page. So, you know, but of course, things are going to happen the way they happen and all in good time and on its own accord. So, that's also a thing. But for people that are interested in seeing demonstrations of Mindsight and seeing without eyes, I know Rob, you've been again. I watched you over the years working with this, and I was like watching the posts on Facebook, like wow, like I remember hearing about this, but this is like real demonstrations. So where could people find all this kind of work?
Yeah, so on Facebook we have a group. It's Vision Without Eyes dash Rob Freeman, and there's also a business Vision Without Eyes Facebook page. And then on YouTube it's Vision Without Eyes, also Rob Freeman. And you type in my name and Vision Without Eyes, and it'll come up. There's I don't even know how many videos there are, like over 500 videos.
Yeah, and you got I believe the website.
Yeah, visionwithouteyes.com is where people can go, especially if they want to sign up for the Mount Shasta event. We do have, a few spots left, so it's not too late to get involved, and would love to have more folks come out, and we'll have a great time, and we'll learn a lot, and quite a, experience of a lifetime, really.
For sure. And do you have any parting words for people in in regards to the reality of these kind of things of seeing without eyes? Like what? Yeah,
Yeah, I guess really, it's something we're born with. Why should we live our life being enslaved? Because that's what we are. If we're not using the abilities that we're given, like then we're not running on all eight cylinders or six cylinders or even four. So allow yourself to open your mind that yes, you do have these abilities, and allow yourself to, let them freely come out. Stop blocking them. It's just it's our peers and our I guess our family and friends around us that have helped us to block these. But if we've been given them, why don't we allow them to come out? Why don't we use them? What is stopping somebody? So, sign up for a seminar. Doesn't have to be mine. Go over to Europe and take a seminar. Doesn't matter. But, don't live the rest of your life hamstrung. These things that we have, open them up and use them in a good way for humanity. Use them in a good way for yourself, your family, your friends, and humanity in general.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to have links in the description for the event, for the website, for some of the other links you mentioned, so people can see this for themselves. Maybe they can even blindfold themselves while they're watching the video to start practicing. Uh, but thank you so much for coming on, Rob and Mark. And I really look forward to hearing about the event and speaking to you guys again soon.
Thanks a lot, James, and we won't let it be so long next time. We'll be back in touch after the event and we can talk
Right.
about it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe sometime after the event, come on and talk about how the event went and because I'm also interested in hearing about like how the UFO dog whistle performs at the
Mhm.
event. What are some of the people's experiences with the mine site and how an event at a wonderful place like Mount Shasta, combining mind sight, telekinesis, and the UFO or ET contact work all together. How that ends up going as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back in touch for sure.
Yes, sir. So you guys take care.
Thanks a lot, James.